Hello to a new episode of Reptile TV, my intro animal for you. Today I would say an old classic. In the past, they were really common in the terrarium hobby. Nowadays, I wouldn't know how many months or years it has been since I last had them with us. But now I have a Lampropeltis alterna again, which is now called the Blairy phase. So nowadays people apparently only refer to phases or the Blairy phase. What is a phase? Distribution variants of the alterna. So in the past, when they were more common in the terrarium hobby, they were all still referred to as Mexicans. There were Mexicans, Blairy, Mexicana creary. As I said, they are now classified as Lampropeltis alterna, and this Blairy is, to my knowledge, no longer even a subspecies, but is simply referred to as the Blairy phase, having these orange-grey bandings. A medium-sized species of Lampropeltis. Generally, they are relatively easy animals. The babies from 2021 sometimes take a little while to start eating mice, so you might need to have a bit of patience at first, but otherwise, once they are feeding well, they are a great terrarium snake, always well behaved, manageable, really problem-free, and, as I said, truly an old classic, the Blairis. That's why for you today, we're introducing 2021. The title of the episode already hints a bit at what it's about. This is how you save money on accessories. So it's about how to effectively save money when purchasing accessories. Of course, you can save money by comparing prices a bit and seeing where you can buy it the cheapest. But that's not really what I'm getting at. Rather, I want to say that you can certainly save money if you look for used terrariums, 2021 accessories, or even entire terrariums. Terraristics is now 30 years old, and accordingly, a lot of used accessories or used terrariums are available on the market. And if you go to eBay or eBay Classifieds now, you will find what you're looking for. Or if you enter the corresponding terms there, you will already find quite a bit of terrarium accessories that you can buy much cheaper than if you had to purchase everything new. It's important that when you do this, you really search for and buy what you need. So don't just browse around and think, oh, that's a great bargain, I'll get that. You want to get a ball python and are Googling for a complete terrarium or terrarium, for example, and you see one and think that's really cheap, really great, and it looks nice and has a beautiful background and so on. I'll get that, I'll put my ball pythons in there. But if the terrarium was originally from Battergame, for example, then forget it. By the time you have remodeled it so that your ball pythons fit in there or that the climate is suitable, that the terrarium fits, you have no chance, it won't work. Or if you are specifically looking for individual items, if you say, okay, I still need a heat panel for my terrarium, you type in heat panel or heating terrarium, and then some old ceramic heaters come up as an example, and you say, well, the ceramic heater with socket only costs $10, so I'll just take that. That may seem cheap at first, but you really have a suboptimal heating solution. You need much more energy with such a heater than if you put in a heat panel 2001, so I would advise against that as well. What I mean to say in advance is that if you do this, you really have to approach it very deliberately. I have tried to outline this a bit with pros and cons. So the pro of these used items is that there are already quite a few good bargains available online that you can find. As I said, Mr. Richtig has been established for over 30 years. And if we had Googled 20 years ago, we wouldn't have found much at all. But nowadays, there is quite a bit available. So you can find good bargains. The selection nowadays is correspondingly large. So you can find affordable items and a wide variety. So you can really find what you are looking for. To return to my intro, look for what you need. Don't just buy anything, instead, search specifically for what you need. One thing I also have as a pro is that this is possible. And a third really important point is that you might also be doing something good for the environment if you don't always buy everything new, but instead say, oh, come on, I can buy this used, or this lamp for the terrarium, or as I said, the terrarium itself, or the heating for the terrarium. If I buy it used, then I might leave a slightly smaller footprint, as they say, than if I always buy everything new. Nowadays, there is a trend, whether it's with clothes or whatever, to also take something used. In my opinion, the same can be done for the terrarium. Of course, there are also the counterpoints. One point is, of course, the warranty. If you buy something used, you can only hope that it is worth something and that it won't break soon. And of course, you also have no warranty. If you buy some heating, or with the lighting, it's probably even more serious. Then it could break within a short time and you are left there. Also an important point, especially if you are buying a terrarium or decor for the terrarium, you can definitely get some roots or setups used. Hygiene might be a concern. You really have to make sure that the items are clean. In quotation marks, they should be sterile. They don't actually have to be sterile, but they must not carry any dangerous pathogens or germs. If the previous owner had any parasites or possibly something like cryptosporidia or viruses in their stock, that is of course very dangerous. So from that perspective, if you buy something used, maybe inquire a little beforehand whether the previous owner's animal died or what happened, and absolutely disinfect the whole thing safely, or perhaps use hot air or steam. What are those devices called? Those steam cleaners, to really ensure that nothing can remain. So I believe hygiene is really an important point. The third downside might be the advice. Of course, you could be lucky and come across a really nice, seasoned terrarium enthusiast who advises you well and maybe even says, no, you can't use that for your setup at all. You should rather get something else or something like that. But it can also be good. Here comes someone who is just happy to get rid of their stuff and sells you everything, even selling you a UV lamp for your royal pythons because they say the royal python needs UV or something like that. The advice is important, and if you then buy something that you can't use and in the end realize it's of no use to me, or I have to, as I mentioned at the beginning, if you buy 1,000, for example, if you buy a bathing garment set and the royal python is supposed to go in there and in the end you have to replace everything, then you end up spending more than if you had bought a complete set. So the advice might also be a point that should be considered a downside. So as a summary, how you can save money when buying used items, still evaluating the pros and cons. I believe it is definitely an alternative to buying something new for 2001. Of course, I am happy if you shop with us at the MS-Reptile shop, but I also have no problem if you buy something used somewhere, and I have no problem if you come at some point and say, I bought this and that used. Is it okay like this, or do I need something else? So we cannot play the advisors for you, showing us any used items and asking if they are good or not. We simply won't be able to manage that in terms of time. I often experience it, or here in the store, for example. When people come and say, I bought the complete terrarium and now this and that should go in, is it okay like this? We have no problem providing help or support there. And that is also the summary. When you buy used, it is very important that you still have proper advice from a professional, from a friend, from the seller, or maybe from us or the store. And you need to know what you are buying and really buy exactly that. As I said, I believe that is really the key point. Not making any compromises, not buying something just because it is a bargain right now or you like it, but it is not suitable for your terrarium animal. It has to fit exactly, and then it can be a good alternative. You can definitely save at least 50% or even 70% of the money. 2001, and if you pay attention to these points, there is nothing against it. 2001.